Look, I'm going all out on this Hawks video. The backdrop is red, the hair is red, I even just stepped on some glass and now my foot is bleeding, but the show must go on. Like, my foot is legitimately bleeding. I think I'll have to bandage that up in a bit, but I talked about the Hawks not that long ago, but I want to talk about them again because simply, they've just been one of my favorite teams in the NBA to watch, if not my favorite, because they've been fantastic and they haven't even been at full strength recently. I mean, they haven't been at full strength all season long, which leaves a couple of things. It leaves room for optimism, in my opinion, and it also leaves room for concern because there's a point in time where you have to think, are these guys injury prone? Is there some kind of mismanagement? Is there some kind of bad luck? Who knows? At the moment, I'm going to take the optimistic approach and say this is a team that hasn't been at full strength. They're racking up wins now, and they just beat a Miami Heat team with not one of their best players missing, with not two of their best players missing, but three of their best players missing in Clint Capella, Trae Young, and DeAndre Hunter. And that's without mentioning Tony Alexander Snell. Is that his middle name? I don't think it is, but Mr. 50-50-100. They didn't even have him out there. Cam Reddish, Chris Dunn, apparently the Phantom Atlanta Hawk, the guy who apparently is an Atlanta Hawk. I'm still not convinced by that, but yeah, they didn't have him either. So they were missing a lot of players, and they still managed to pull out a win against a good Miami Heat team who were pretty much at full strength. That's why I'm optimistic about this Hawks team. And before I go any further, if you could drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel, that would be much appreciated. Like I mentioned, I made a Hawks video not that long ago, and it didn't actually do very well. So if I was being smart and taking the numbers approach, I wouldn't be making another Atlanta Hawks video. It's just that simple. But because I like the team and I like what they're doing, I wanted to make another video. So if you could like the video, it would be much appreciated because that might be the only way for this video to do well. So that would be cool. Since hiring Nate McMillan, the Hawks have just been a completely different team. And in fairness to Lloyd Pierce, I think McMillan's a far better coach, but in fairness to Lloyd Pierce, they've also been healthier, so they have literally been a different team, but McMillan's just a better coach and he's doing a better job. And when you look back at when he took over the Hawks at the beginning of March, they've had the third best record in the NBA, only behind the Denver Nuggets and Phoenix Suns, tied with the Los Angeles Clippers. Very, very good company over that period of time as well. It's probably not a big surprise to you that their offense is the driving force. The fourth ranked offense in the league, led by Trae Young, of course, who is an offensive maestro. You can make fun of his defense. You can make fun of him drawing fouls. He's an offensive beast. It's that simple, and he's leading this team. There's some other reasons for that as well. We'll get into that in a little bit. But another thing that I think is more impressive is the fact they've gone from the 23rd ranked defense to the 15th. Which isn't crazy, but they've been missing DeAndre Hunter, probably their best wing defender. They've had Clint Capella in and out of the lineup a few games. They've had the likes of Cam Reddish missing, who isn't great offensively, but he does add some defensive versatility and some potential on that end. And like I mentioned, the Phantom Atlanta Hawk, Chris Dunn, is apparently a Hawk, and he could, in theory, bring some defensive pressure and some defensive energy. So he could be a nice defender to add into the mix as well. So they do have some defenders missing, and they've still been the 15th ranked defense, which considering their offense has been so good, that's pretty good. So I'm pretty impressed by that as well. But we'll talk about the defense a little bit later. A huge reason as to why I'm so high on the Hawks and why I needed to make another video is because of Bogdan Bogdanovic. I talked about him before, but he's just got better and better, and he's consistently going from strength to strength and looking like the player that I think I hoped he could be once he joined Atlanta, once he got out of Sacramento, to be honest. It doesn't really matter where he went. Anywhere but Sacramento, I was thinking he still had some room to grow, and we're seeing that room because over the last 20 games, he's been unbelievable. Pretty much since getting back from injury and starting to play 30 minutes a night again, he has been averaging 20 points a game, 4 assists on just about 50-50-90 shooting splits. Yeah, video game numbers. Legitimately video game numbers. But the best thing about Bogey finding form isn't just the fact that he's giving you those ridiculous numbers. That's obviously great. But it's also the fact his versatility and what the Hawks can now do. Because like you saw, Trae Young was out of the lineup against the Miami Heat. In past years, they would have had absolutely no answer for Trae Young being out of the lineup. They put Bogdanovic as the kind of lead guard there. He put up 8 assists, gave you 20 points, and he was able to orchestrate the offense over a win against a pretty good defensive team. And it's deeper than him just stepping up when Trae Young is missing altogether. It's also him stepping up when Trae Young goes to the bench. All of the Hawks players stepping up when Trae goes to the bench, because you take it back to last year, this team was bad. Like, I mean, really, really bad. Like, think of bad. It's worse than that when it comes to offense when Trae was off the floor. Think about Charlotte Bobcats. Those teams, yeah, that's the kind of team you were getting offensively when Trae sat on the floor. Just to put it into context for you guys, the offense when Trae was off the floor last year was below 100. And, well, let's look at the OKC Thunder. Just literally playing G-Leaguers over the last 15 games. They've won one of their last 15 games. They're playing G-Leaguers, as I mentioned. They do not want to win, and they have a better offensive rating than the Hawks had last year when Trae Young was off the floor. If that doesn't kind of give you an idea of how bad they were, then I don't know what does. Basically, they sucked, in other words. So, yeah, let's get that out of the way. They sucked. And now, all of a sudden, looking at it this year, the Hawks have a below-average offense when Trae's off the floor, which obviously isn't fantastic, but that's a huge, huge difference from being one of the worst offenses in NBA history when he sat to now being just a below average. And you also have to consider Bogdanovic has missed games, Gallinari has missed games, Lou Will has just come in, DeAndre Hunter. All of these guys have missed games, so this doesn't even factor into that. So I think once you get the full list back and all of the depth, that'll shoot up. That'll probably be an average offense with Trae off the floor and a great offense with him on the floor. Right now, you're looking at a team that is just going to be really good offensively. There's just no two ways about it. They've got the depth, they've got the scoring, they've got the shooting, they've got pretty much everything offensively. And, well, we may as well talk about the defense because I alluded to it before, but the man who is carrying the load defensively, Clint, Bill, Russell, Capella, is a monster. He deserves more recognition. I'm getting my early Clint Capella for All-Star campaign started. Obviously, Isaiah Stewart will be the other center in the East. No worries about that, but Clint Capella has been fantastic. The man is averaging 17 and 15 since McMillan has took over 2 blocks. But just outside of the numbers that he puts up, I mean, his impact, one of the best screeners in the league, one of the best rollers in the league, one of the best shot blockers in the league, the best rebounder in the league, should I say. He does all of these things at an elite level. He might not have the versatility, and that's what everyone loves. I love that as well. I love versatility in the modern day NBA. You need it. But also, when you've got someone that does so many things that are crucial, like ridiculously well, that's what you're getting with Clint Capella. He needs to be mentioned in the same tier as the best centers in the NBA. Jokic and Embiid are on a different tier. They're on a different level. But then once you get past those guys, I think Capella deserves to be mentioned with the likes of Gobert's, the Adebayos, the Townses. I'm not saying who's better. I'm not getting into that because it's just so hard to compare. And the Hawks defense, you can see it struggles drastically when he's off the floor. And it's no surprise because he is the guy that everyone fears when they enter the paint. He's blocked Zion Williamson. He got baptized by Miles Bridges, but we move on. That's the kind of thing he does. He puts his body on the line. Even when Miles Bridges has a head of steam, he's still going to try and block his shot. Every now and then you're going to get baptized by Miles Bridges. Nah, okay, let's cut that out. But you get the point. You're going to get baptized, but he's been fantastic. Clint Capella, underrated player, really great defensive player. I just love what he brings to the Hawks, and I think he is a key piece to why this defense is average, why this defense is keeping opponents under their usual field goal percentage at the rim as well. Statistically, it's a defense that is good at protecting the paint, at least from an efficiency standpoint. So all of those things are because of Clint Capella, let's be honest. Another thing that I did allude to before is the injuries with the Hawks. Now, this is obviously an issue. You want them to get healthy. There are some silver linings that you can take out of injuries. You look at guys like Big O, who's getting some minutes now. Maybe he's not going to play many minutes in the playoffs, but I think just getting those minutes into him, just seeing that he can be a solid rotational piece and step up when needed is just important. It's important to know that. And when he's called upon, he's not going to be out there looking like he has no idea what he's doing now. The likes of Brandon Goodwin has stepped up recently and had some really nice games and some really nice moments, so he's been really good. Even looking back just a few weeks ago, Trae Young was having a really bad night against the Warriors. He didn't have it going. They put Lou Will in the game for the last 2 minutes of the game. Nate McMillan did that. He pulled the trigger on that move and they won the game. So just looking at those kind of things that you can do, you've got so much depth. Bogdanovic has been amazing, but you could easily switch out Bogdanovic. Kevin Huerter has been playing great. You look at DeAndre Hunter. Kevin Huerter has been playing great. As I mentioned, you've got depth on depth on depth. So there's really a lot of lineups that you can go with. Tony Snell, Solomon Hill. There's so many guys that are interchangeable. And when it comes playoff time, that's where the interchangeable lineups are crucial. It's going to be tough to make sure everyone gets minutes, and I would not like to be the guy rationing out minutes because that would not be an easy job. But in terms of having talent on the roster that can all do a different job, you've got a lot of that, so that's a good thing. Now, just looking ahead to the playoffs, I'm just looking at a closing lineup that could potentially be Trae Young, Bogdanovic, DeAndre Hunter, John Collins, and Clint Capella. That is a really good lineup. Now, defensively, do you have some concerns against the likes of Philly, Brooklyn, all of those teams with the elite wings? Maybe. I mean, who doesn't have concerns over those guys? DeAndre Hunter, you're putting a lot of reliance on this guy in his second year coming off an injury. I think he's got that potential eventually. Whether he reaches that this season, maybe not. Realistically, maybe this Hawks team isn't ready to make a kind of big splash in the playoffs, but I think just looking forward, looking at this team, that's a scary lineup. And then you look at the bench, the depth, every kind of rotational move you can make. This is a team that, looking into the playoffs, they could cause a stir. I'm not saying they're going to beat one of the big dogs. I'm not going to say that because we haven't even seen them play in the playoffs. That's another thing. They haven't had the playoff experience, which could be crucial. They could get fans out. Trae Young, I don't know yet because I haven't seen it, so I'm not going to talk on it. But basically, I'm just looking at a lineup that has a lot of room to make a splash in the playoffs. Like, that's a really good closing lineup with the depth that they have, with the different pieces that they can incorporate. They could be dangerous. I say that for a lot of teams, but genuinely, I believe it with this team. The biggest issue with me making a Hawks video is, like, I haven't even talked about half of the players on their team that have been playing really well. Kevin Huerter I alluded to, but he's stepped up in the absence of DeAndre Hunter and been fantastic. Lou Will has come in. He looks rejuvenated. Danilo Gallinari, yeah, that guy, he's been really solid off the bench. He's still a spark plug that could give you 25 points on any given night and change the complexion of any single game. He's still that guy. As I mentioned, DeAndre Hunter, I really rate him highly. In my opinion, he was the third best second-year player. It's not even really an opinion. It was a fact until he got injured. RJ Barrett has come in and played really well, but DeAndre Hunter beforehand was that guy. He was fantastic. He showed some offensive growth. Defensively, we know he does have that potential. I talk about a guy like Cam Reddish in his second year, potential as well, a lot of it. There's just so many guys that I haven't even mentioned that need mentioning and could really do a job at some point in time, whether it's this year or going forward. Oh, did I even mention Trae Young? Yeah, that guy. The offensive powerhouse. John Collins, that guy. What else can I say, really? Like, the fact that I went this long without talking about those guys in depth just kind of says it all. You know about those guys. I wanted to talk about some of the other guys, but yeah, the Atlanta Hawks are a legitimate team that I would be looking out for in the East. Anyways, if you enjoyed the video, a like would be greatly appreciated. Subscribe to the channel. Can confirm my foot is still bleeding. I'm not going to show you it because that could get me in trouble, I guess. I don't know how it works. Anyways, bye. Have a good day.